For years, so many of us have looked at Jira and just seen, well, a glorified to-do list. But here's the thing. Using it just for that is kind of like using a supercomputer to play tic-tac-toe. It's a huge waste of power. So today, we're going to unlock its real potential. We're going to turn Jira into a powerhouse automation engine that connects your code directly to your workflow and gets rid of all that manual busy work for good. So let me start with a question, and I bet this one's going to hit close to home for a lot of you out there. Is your team paying the manual tax? Now, this isn't something you'll ever see on an invoice, but trust me, your team is paying it every single day in lost productivity and shattered focus. So what exactly is this tax? Well, it's all that friction, all that wasted energy. It's that context switching nightmare that happens every single time a developer has to pull themselves out of the zone, stop coding, click over to Jira, hunt for the right ticket, update the status, and then try to get back into that flow state. It's a huge, silent killer of productivity. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dig into this whole manual tax problem. Then we'll look at how to build an automated bridge to fix it. We're going to break down the anatomy of an automation, see how it can totally change the game for audits and compliance, and this is a big one, how it helps you get metrics you can actually trust. By the time we're done, you're going to see how to go from just being a Jira user to becoming a real workflow architect. Okay, let's dive into the core problem here. It all boils down to this fundamental disconnect between the world of code and the world of project management. It's really a tale of two different worlds, isn't it? Your developers are living and breathing inside their code repos, places like GitHub. Meanwhile, managers are tracking everything over in Jira. And that gap between them, it's filled with manual updates. That's the bottleneck. And it's what absolutely crushes key DevOps goals, like reducing lead time. And just to be clear, that's the total time it takes from the moment a developer commits code to when it's actually live in production. I mean, look at the difference here. It is literally night and day. The old way is this clunky, multi-step process that just shatters your focus. You have to stop coding, go find the ticket, update the status, and then good luck getting back in the zone. But the new way, it's just so simple. The developer just commits their code. That's it. That's their only job in this part of the process. Everything else, totally automatic. So how do we fix this? Simple. We build a bridge, an automated one, powered by Jira's own no-code logic that connects these two worlds together seamlessly. And the best part is, you don't even have to be a coder to build this thing. It's all based on no-code logic, so you're building these rules visually. The whole thing runs on what's called an event-driven architecture, which is just a fancy way of saying that when something happens in one system, like a code commit, it automatically triggers an action in another. And the tech that makes that happen? Webhooks. Think of them like instant messengers that let GitHub and Jira talk to each other in real time. Okay, so how do you actually build one of these rules? Well, it all boils down to a really simple three-part structure: when, if, and then. It's a super straightforward formula. The when is your trigger. It's what just happened. So for example, when a developer creates a new branch in GitHub. The if is your condition. It's a specific filter, like if the issue type is a bug. And then finally you have the then. That's the action. Then what should Jira do? In this case, it'll automatically transition the ticket to in progress. Here's a classic example. Honestly, this is a must-have automation for any team. When a developer's pull request gets merged into the main branch, then the Jira ticket for that work is automatically moved to done. So simple, so clean, and it takes zero manual effort. But wait, it gets even smarter than that. This kind of logic lets you build what we call self-healing workflows. So picture this. Your automated build process, your CI/CD pipeline, kicks off a build and it fails. Instead of just sitting there broken until someone notices, an automation rule can fire off instantly, reopen the Jira ticket, assign it back to the developer, and even flag it as a blocker. The system is literally fixing its own process. Now, this is about way more than just making developers' lives a little easier. This kind of automation has huge strategic value, especially when you're trying to balance that constant pressure to move fast with the very real demands of corporate compliance. This is where you can actually build your compliance rules right into the workflow itself. Want to enforce traceability? You can set up a rule that says a ticket cannot be closed without a linked, peer-reviewed pull request. Need to implement separation of duties? Easy. An automation can block a developer from merging their own pull request. You can even build smarter change management, like automatically pre-approving low-risk changes, but flagging anything high-risk for a human review. Your process literally enforces its own rules. All right, we all know you can't improve what you don't measure, right? But here's the catch. Measurement is totally useless if your data is garbage. And this is another spot where automation is an absolute game changer. It's the secret to finally guaranteeing that your data is accurate. So when it comes to measuring DevOps performance, the gold standard that everyone talks about is DORA metrics. That stands for DevOps Research and Assessment. And if you want to track these things properly, you absolutely need precise, reliable data. And I'm talking about the kind of data that comes from an automated system, not from hoping someone remembers to click a button in Jira. And this really shows you how it all connects. Let's take cycle time, which measures from that first commit all the way to deployment. Automation guarantees the accuracy here because it captures the exact timestamp of every single status change. Or what about deployment frequency? With direct links to tools like Jenkins, you can track every single release automatically. And mean time to recovery? When an incident happens, the automation can start and stop the clock instantly, giving you a perfect measurement. The point is, your data is no longer a guess, it's a fact. So when you really start to master these principles, something incredible happens. There's this fundamental shift in your role. You stop being just a user of the software, and you become a designer of the entire system. Now, of course, with great power comes, well, a few challenges. You have to watch out for something called rule fatigue, where you accidentally create conflicting rules that can cause crazy infinite loops. And maybe most importantly, the whole system lives and dies by data integrity. For example, if your team isn't consistently putting the Jira ticket ID in their branch names, that automated bridge we talked about, it's going to break. But this, right here, is the ultimate goal. By mastering Jira automation, you're not just learning another feature, you are fundamentally changing your role. You make that transition from being a software user to becoming a workflow architect, the person who actually designs the systems that let high-performing teams do their best work. And that brings me to one final thought about what's next. We're all hearing about AI ops, that's artificial intelligence for IT operations. Pretty soon, AI is going to be predicting bugs and SLA breaches right inside of tools like Jira. The skills that you're building today, architecting these automated data-rich workflows, they're the absolute foundation for that intelligent future. So I'll leave you with this question. Are your workflows built to evolve?